What is up, you guys? My name is Madison. Welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you are new. Today's video is going to be books that I recommend to read during the summer. Except none of these are new books. So if these are on your TBR, maybe this is your sign to pick them up and read them. Yeah, I'm gonna go kind of genre by genre, and I will give you kind of a little synopsis and why I think you should read them. Starting off, I have two poetry books. I just think that poetry is like the perfect thing to read during the summer because it's quick, it's easy, it's something you can read at the pool and then finish at the pool. You know what I mean? Yeah. So first I have Broken Flowers and Other Stairways to Heaven by Robert M. Drake. I will always recommend reading one of his books. He is my favorite poet of all time. But his specifically are kind of quick and easy. His photography in there, stunning. I love it so much. I just think that his poetry is something very easy to digest, but also something very meaningful. Which is why I recommend this. This one in particular I picked because of the photography element in it, and I think that's really fun to kind of get in the summertime. And even though this one is like sad, it's not like I'm gonna bawl my eyes out by the end of it. The second poetry book I have is The Princess Saves Herself in This One by Amanda Lovelace. I actually read this right as I started getting into like book book talk and all of that, and it was summertime, so I think that's why I recommend it. But I also recommend it because there's such a fun aspect in her stuff, even though it's, again, very sad. But I love kind of like the I don't know how to describe it, the layout of her books. Like I just think that like that's just so cute and fun. I love making shapes out of words. Moving on to my two sci-fi books. The first book I have is Cinder by Marissa Meyer, or Marissa Meyer, however you say her name. I actually hate Cinderella. It's my least favorite fairy tale. This one was so good. I remember I listened to the audiobook and I had the library book. I didn't read them at the same time, so I have read this book twice. And what I really, really like about this is that we're following our main character, and she is like half robot. She's not a full robot. And her stepmom hates her. She's pretty close with her stepsister. And she has to go on like this mission, or like she has to like go do something, and she meets the prince, and everyone is like super jealous, whatever. And I think that this is just a really fun like just Cinderella retelling. And that's, again, I hate all Cinderella movies, all Cinderella retellings. Ella Enchanted is supposed to be so fun, hate it, can't do it. Another Cinderella Story, hate it, can't do it. This one, phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. And the second sci-fi book I have is a chunky one, but it's not as intimidating as it looks. I have Illuminae by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. I love this series. I'm actually rereading the series right now. And again, chunky book, but it's not a lot of words. It's more just like a lot of pages are just kind of like fun to look at. Like, I mean, there's names of people. I would not read all of those names. That being said, we're following a girl and a guy. I don't know if they're of age, actually. I don't think that they ever said that, but their world is pretty much exploding. And so they get pushed onto these ships, and to survive, they're like, they test it out and put into like different things. Well, the guy becomes like a soldier of some kind, and the girl is like super smart technologically. So they're trying to push her into being like a computer scientist, like a data scientist, and she's like, no, I'm not doing that. And like the two main characters dated, they still like each other, but they're over. But they keep searching for each other, they keep searching for their family, like that kind of stuff. And I think that this is just a really fun thing to kind of just sit outside or sit like just anywhere really and read. I also really, really like listening to music while I watch it or while I read this. Just like no lyric, like kind of like electro pop music. Love it. Now on to horror. Horror fantasy, I guess, but definitely more in the horror category. Actually, now that I look at it, I don't have any fantasy books here. I don't feel like fantasy is a very summery like genre, I guess. If you want a fantasy book, I recommend Saber of Truth by C.L. Gordon. that's a pretty fun one. It's pretty similar to Illuminae, actually. I would recommend that if you liked Illuminae. Again, side tangent. Sorry, guys. To the horror category. First, I have The Saturday Night Ghost Club by Craig Davidson. 5 out of 5 book, 10 out of 10 book. Literally one of the best books I've ever read in my entire life. And like, I wasn't planning on annotating it, but I do have like little like notes in here. By the oath of the white mage, do you swear it? When I admitted I didn't know that oath, he stuck out his little finger and said the pinky will suffice. The pinky variety will suffice. I just think it's so cute. Anyway, we're following Jake. And it's kind of like a dual like point of view, but like we're both following Jake, but it's like different years. So one summer Jake's uncle like moves into town, or like he gets really close to his uncle, and his uncle takes him and his friends on all these adventures and tells some ghost stories. So Jake, being young, naive, I believe he was like 11 or 12, just kind of follows him blindly and believes all of these ghost stories. While he's also learning about like falling in love for the first time, and you know, friendships and how those can change over time, like that kind of stuff. So like, even though that this does have like the horror aspect to it, it's very much like a finding yourself book as well. And then we get, you know, flash forwards, not very often in the book, but occasionally to an adult Jake looking back and being like, what was I doing? You know, like that time was like super important to me. It changed me, but what was I doing? And I just think that this was such a fun read. It's very short. It's, I believe, like 200 something pages. Yeah, 203. Super good. Kind of on the same track, but also kind of on a different track. Next, I have The Girl from the Well by Rin Chupeco. This book, we're following the Okiku, who is kind of on a hunt for revenge, and a young boy that she has taken a liking to because he's depressed. And so we're kind of following both of their stories. You know, you have the dad who doesn't believe in any of that stuff versus his mom who died because of these spirits and everything like that. And the grandmother, who's a huge part of the story. It's how the boy finds out about his past, who the dad still believes is just absolutely insane. So this is a story of the Okiku and the young boy kind of defining their friendship and their past and everything like that. I highly recommend, if you are into any kind of like Japanese or Asian lore, or if you just really like learning about like, you know, like stories like that, like folklore, that kind of stuff. I highly recommend this book. And I know that it's in the horror like genre, but I just feel like this book can be read anytime, anywhere. Now on to kind of like a more like general fiction kind of thing. I'll start with the thriller and then just go into the general fiction, but even then I would just consider this a general fiction book. Next, I have The Only Girl in Town by Ali Condi. This was a recent read for me, actually, and man, did this book really hit you where it hurts. So this takes place during the summertime. One day, our main character, July, wakes up and everybody is gone. There is a big old truck blaring music outside of my house right now. And July wakes up and nobody's there. So she makes a wish for her cat, and her cat comes back. So she starts wishing for things and they're not happening. So she has to go out on her own and try and figure out where everyone went. And this is a really, really good story about finding yourself, not letting things get to you. So it's just, I highly recommend this book. You know, I read this book in one sitting. It's so good. My next book, this could also technically fall under romance, but I'm not going to consider it a romance for now. The second book might be more of a romance. I have Stars and Smoke by Marie Lu. Again, another recent read. I think I read this towards like the middle to end of 2025, but it's so good. We're following Winter and Sydney. Winter is a K-pop star, you know, like BTS, Stray Kids, and Hypen, like that kind of like really big star. And Sydney is a spy, or like a security guard, I guess, but she's also like a spy. And they're working together to kind of just take down this like huge like drug ring. This is so fun. They don't want to fall for each other because technically Sydney is supposed to play Winter's bodyguard, and she hates him because he's famous. No other reason. And I just think that's, you know, a fun little, not enemies to lovers, but like forced proximity kind of thing. It's just really fun. Now on to romance. I have 4 romance books because I wanted to make sure I covered my bases. First, I have Twisted Love by Anna Huang. Whoa, let me English, or I guess not English because she's not American. Moving on. We're following Alex and Ava. Ava is Alex's best friend's little sister. That one gets me every single time. And Alex is like the broody type. He's like no, I can't like you. You're my best friend's little sister, like that kind of stuff. But it's also like a dark romance without it being like super dark. So if you don't like the full dark romance, but you still like that part, like the like spookier kind, I guess, I highly recommend picking it up. I like the whole series, one of my favorites. Now on to the younger side. If you want just like a clean romance, I will always recommend Everything by Nicola Yoon. Here we're following a girl who is sick, just like super sick, and a new boy comes to town and they become friends, and then they fall in love, but this disease is just getting in the way and like ruining her life, that kind of stuff. I think it's fun. I think it's pretty similar to 5 Feet Apart, but I've never actually seen 5 Feet Apart. Yeah. Now, because it is Pride Month, I have 2 LGBTQ plus books. I mean, I have more, but these are the ones that I would recommend with my entire heart and soul for the summertime. First, I obviously have Red, White, and Royal Blue. Duh. I have 3 copies of this book. I have the paperback, the OG paperback, I have the movie cover paperback, and I have the hardcover. Here we're following the Hispanic president's son, presidential woman, by the way, and the Prince of England. So obviously they're not supposed to like each other. Or actually they're supposed to like each other, but they don't because of past beef, past drama. And we're learning kind of just like how they operate, how they work. And it's so much fun seeing and hearing everything. And it also really goes to show like how much image plays into who you are and how you need to be. But also our main character is from Texas. I love my Southern representation because you don't really get a lot of LGBTQ plus Southern representation. Okay, and the last book on this list. The last book on this list is She Drives Me Crazy by Kelly Quinlan. Oh my goodness. Cheerleader basketball romance? Hooked in. You have the popular girl and the not so popular girl. Again, hooked in, locked in. Also, popular girl, person of color. I feel like I never see that. I feel like this is one of the first times where I've seen, a person of color not be the side character and like actually like truly be the main character, especially when it comes to like general like fiction. So we're following Scotty and Irene, and Irene is supposed to be this like mean popular girl, and Scotty is this shy basketball player that like doesn't really have a lot of friends. Well, they're forced to team up together. Fake dating trope, guys. It's a fake dating trope. Yeah, they have to team up together to get their exes jealous. And Irene is also using Scotty to win prom queen, I believe, or like homecoming queen. Some kind of queen. My high school did not do that, so I wouldn't know. But yeah, it's just the forced proximity, the fake dating, like all of the, I love it so much. And then there's like bullying, so I would be careful going into that. Even though it's very light, it's very not a big part of the plot, I would still be very hesitant if stuff like that can get to you. Obviously it's Irene going after Scotty, so it's not necessarily racism. However, I do think racism was a part of this book. Again, very minuscule, but not a huge part. I actually do plan on rereading this sometime this month, if you want my honest opinion. That's all 12 books that I have for you guys today. Were any of these on your TBR? Did any of these pique your interest? Yeah, let me know. These are some of my favorite books. Even if they didn't get like a solid 5 out of 5 for me, these are books that I would recommend with my entire heart and soul. If you like these kind of videos, if you want to make one for the fall and the winter and the spring, let me know. Yeah. Anyway, that is all for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Down below, all my social media will also be down below. And I will see you next time, whenever that may be. Bye!